What's up everybody, it's your boy Code102 aka Aiden. Welcome back to another video. Today's topic is going to be the fall and the rise of one Carmelo Anthony. Now, for many people who may not be aware of what really happened to Carmelo Anthony throughout the years, he's kind of showing at the moment how a player should be reviving their career. It's very important that when someone is a star player, which he was for many, many years, he needs to accept and understand when he just isn't the main focus of a team anymore. I think that's kind of what he struggled with. So looking at it now, when he has true acceptance of everything that he's doing, he's accepted his role, he's accepted that he isn't the star player of of the team that he's on, what kind of player he could really be. So we'll start off with the highs of his career. Obviously, when he got drafted to the Denver Nuggets, he was projected to be the one to compete with LeBron, really, because they both were very similar, both similar in size and weight and stature, and the hype maybe with LeBron, but Melo was pretty well hyped as well, and for the most part, in their younger years, they did compete fairly well with each other in terms of stats. Many people thought that Melo should have been Rookie of the Year because the stats shows that he had a somewhat better season than LeBron. But of course, that wasn't meant to be because LeBron was a lot of hype at the time. He was projected to be the next best thing, to be the king, and it kind of shows what happened between the two. Even though Melo was competing, he still wasn't. He still wasn't projected to be anything near what LeBron was. Maybe that's just my opinion, but I think at the time Melo was always going to be the second best out of the two. I think that's what people believed in. But for the most part, when it comes to the stats, especially in that first season, he was showing that he could compete with LeBron. And his time in Denver, he was on a pretty much a better team than LeBron as well. He was doing fairly well for himself, and then things kind of went a little bit downhill. But before we'll stick with the positives. Obviously, Denver was probably the place where he learnt the most, but I think everybody at the time realized that he kind of wanted to go to the Knicks, and he wanted to win a championship with the Knicks, so that's what he ended up doing. Now, when he was with the Knicks, it did look like it was a positive. You know, the Knicks were doing pretty well with him as well, and everything looked good. They ended up making the playoffs a couple of times, but I don't think anybody really believed that he could win a championship by himself with the New York Knicks, and that turned out to be the case. I know they had a fairly good team with Amari Stoudemire, J.R. Smith, Jeremy Lin at the time as well. They had a pretty good team with them, and they did fairly well for that team, but they were never projected to be a championship winning team, and it just seemed like it was a lost cause, and many people wanted Melo to leave and to go and get his ring that he deserves. Look, no matter what you say, Carmelo deserves to win a championship, no matter what team he's on, no matter what position, what state, if he's the star or not. He deserves to be. He deserves to win a championship. So it's important that like that recognition needs to be there. But anyway, enough about recognition and all that. When he decided to stick with New York, even after when his contract was up, his first contract with the Knicks, and he decided to resign, a lot of people called him a money chaser. He's only really interested in the money. He doesn't really care about winning the championship. As long as he secures the bag, he's going to be fine. He's going to be happy with everything else he does. The championship doesn't matter to him. Now, I can see that point of view. I can see how taking the money when it doesn't look like a championship's coming anytime soon can be seen as a cheap move. But you got to understand, when you're a professional athlete, or even when you're just really good at something and you think that you're one of the best, you have to trust in yourself that no matter what situation you're in, you can get the best out of it. So maybe he took the money, maybe taking the money was a very important factor, but whether it is or not, he probably still believed in his heart he could win a championship with New York at the time. Even though no one else did, he did. And that's what a professional athlete needs to believe. That he can come into a team, no matter what the sport is, and he can win a championship, no matter what the team is. So, yeah, it might have been unrealistic, but I kind of, that's where I kind of understand Melo's situation. Maybe he was just for the money. I don't know. I've never publicly heard him say that he signed New York purely for the money and he didn't care about a championship. You're never going to hear someone say that. So I kind of just assumed that he probably thought he could win a championship with New York. Obviously, as the time dwindled down, it wasn't meant to be. They got Porzingis, which was supposed to be like the at the time it was just meant to be a reflection of everything that went bad with the New York Knicks. That they're signing some unknown person who just who played overseas, no one knows him, and he was projected to be a bust straight away. But Porzingis ended up really helping that New York's team, and it really helping Melo. Also got Derrick Rose, but it's still not a championship team. And I think when push comes to shove, Melo ended up wanting to leave New York, and I think that was probably the best for both parties to rebuild with Porzingis at the time, and for Carmelo to go and chase that ring. So going to the Thunder, this is where it really goes downhill. Now, when you're going to a team like the Thunder, you have Russell Westbrook and you have Paul George. You're not going to be the best player on that team. I think that was the problem. Melo was it was kind of projected to be a big three, but at the end of the day, I think Melo's time being a star player was dwindling down slowly. He was getting up there in age a bit, but even if he was still a star player, I think just not accepting the role that was given to him was the biggest problem, and why that he started that downfall of his reputation, his acceptance in the NBA, how his naivety in a way. He was very naive to believe that on a team where you have MVP Russell Westbrook and Paul George, who's probably having his best seasons in OKC, would Melo would just be his normal self, averaging his 25 points per game and stuff. Now, not to say that he didn't perform well in OKC, I think he caused more problems than not, because everybody remembers that press conference, right? That press conference where, hey, yo, Pete, I gotta come off the bench and all of that. Started laughing. Yeah, there may be more clarity now on why he said that, because no one really told him. But I think if he had to be on the bench, he should accept it. And I think at the time he might have accepted it. I think every player accepts their role, but they don't like their role. I think if you don't like your role, you're not going to perform the best. So he didn't, obviously, being not accepting being on the bench. It kind of made a difficult and toxic situation for OKC. Now, Carmelo, he did well in OKC as well. It's not to say he didn't do well, but there could have been more done with him. He could have got more out of that situation. I think with the Thunder, that wasn't a team to win a championship by any means, any stretch of the means. But they were good enough to be in the playoffs. They were good enough to be in playoff contention, and they were. But I think with Melo on the bench, or Melo kind of being the number one scoring option on the bench, this is just me, my opinion personally, by the way. But Melo being the scoring option on the bench would have helped OKC more than Melo starting. That's just my opinion. I'm not going to say that as a fact, but I think they could have got more out of it. Now, I think with that toxic situation, they were kind of forced to trade Melo. So he ended up getting traded to the Rockets. And with the Rockets, I think it was a similar situation, but he did play on the bench for a few games. And I think it was pretty unjust, in my opinion, for the Rockets to waive him. But probably just a situation of it not working out. Maybe Melo wasn't the right fit, no matter what he was averaging. So he ended up like in his last two games scoring over 20 points. He was making threes. He was, in my opinion, he was fitting in offensively, but maybe the defense was the option, or maybe the role he was playing and not happy with it, and maybe being vocal about it was the reason why the Rockets just thought it was better to go on without him than with him. And that's exactly what happened. He ended up getting waived. Now, that's probably the lowest of his career. Like, how could someone like Carmelo Anthony, who's still a very, very, very good scorer in the NBA, get waived just like that? He's gone, and it's hard. Like, honestly, to this day, I can't believe how long he got waived for. It's honestly ridiculous. But maybe it's his once you wait too long, people will just start to believe that he's getting up there in age now. He's getting pretty old now. He might not have it anymore. But then you got to realize this is a top player in the NBA. He's definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's a scoring champion. This guy should not be taken for granted, no matter what age he is. He can impact the game in any way. So it's just you got to respect that. Maybe it's just his willingness to come off the bench was not there at the time. But I think the downfall or the lowest also turned into his brightest moments as a player and as a person, because in that time off, he's accepted his role. He's accepted that he's not going to be the star player of any team, but he's also accepted that he's a damn good player, and he knows he's a good player, and he's accepted that whether he's starting or whether he's on the bench, he can come in to a game and he can change the game in a heartbeat. Yeah, he's a very good scorer. He can score anywhere at any given time. Everybody knows that. Now it's just the point of where is he going to get his shots? How efficient can he get his shots? And I think it's a perfect match where he is now, because yeah, he's starting. I think no one in the NBA wants to play to be on the bench, but sometimes it's just got to be accepting that role. So yeah, maybe he's in the ideal situation where he's starting, but I think if he was on the bench, he would be accepting it and flourishing as well. Because if you look at his comments before getting signed to the Blazers, he was ready to accept his role. He was ready to accept that he could be a bench player for any team and he will do well. All he wanted was a chance to prove to people that he was accepting of his role. He was accepting of the situation that was given to him. And long and behold, Portland Trailblazers decided to sign him, to give him a chance, because I think Portland at the time as well were doing very, very badly in the West, and they needed another spark. They needed another influencer. They needed another person to lead and to score and to help build the Portland Trailblazers back up again, because it looked like things were getting stale for them, stagnant in a way. Their players weren't performing as well as they should. They have a lot of pieces, but their pieces aren't performing, and they also let go of a lot of pieces as well, questioning their bench, questioning everything about them really. Portland were one of the worst teams in the NBA at the time. They were nearly dead last in the West, but with Carmelo, that spark, he showed a true character that most people probably wouldn't have. The acceptance of coming to impact the game, and not necessarily taking every shot, not necessarily putting up the greatest numbers, but impacting the game, making a threat of yourself in a way where you don't take contested shots. You're not taking ridiculous shots that a star player usually would, like Damian Lillard sometimes does. Sometimes he takes bad shots, but I think when he's not the star player and you got better players around you, Carmelo is going to be a better player, and I think he showed that. If not, he definitely is. If he hasn't shown that already, he is showing it now, and he will continue to show it. So Portland Trailblazers is probably the perfect. I think he's the perfect fit for Carmelo Anthony. He is starting. He's doing everything right. He's promoting himself in a way where he just shows the true character of himself. He's promoting himself in a way he's fully accepting everything that's happening with him, and it's making him a better player. It's making him probably the best version of himself. Yes, he's a star player. Yes, he will probably make the Hall of Fame, but I think it's more important now the type of character that he is. And this is the rise of Carmelo Anthony, the rise of him as a person. Because as a basketball player, I think we all know he's not going to be Melo of the Nuggets or Melo of the Knicks. He's not going to be that scoring champion. He's not going to be leading scorer of the team that he's on. But he is probably a better version of himself as a human, and I think that's more important than being just a basketball player. As a human being, if you're a better version of yourself, you're going to perform better than what you're expected to be. He's outperforming what everybody expected him to be doing, so that's all that needs to be said, really. So fair play to Carmelo Anthony. This is the rise of Carmelo Anthony. If you like what you've heard today, please leave a like and subscribe.